The didactic unit I'm going to present is didactic unit 6, called When I Get Older I Will Be, whose learning situation is an ancient Java story developed during the second term from 27th of January to 14th of February, designed for the 5th grade of primary education, and it involves 8 sessions. If you go to the page 26, you will find it. It's important to highlight that during this term we're going to celebrate Easter time. Well, if you let me a minute, I'm going to set on the whiteboard the several Andalusian provinces in which I'm going to establish the different elements related to this learning situation. So where we start with justification. Throughout this didactic unit, we're going to learn and pay attention to jobs and professions and schedules in Spain and in other countries. Well, each didactic unit I have designed consists of the specific aspects of English area, vocabulary, grammar, culture aspects with the reading plan and values education, phonics and interdisciplinarity. Secondly, the curricular elements, stage objectives, key competencies, specific competencies, basic knowledge, evaluation criteria and connection to the exit profile. Then, the didactic sequence that integrates methodology, learning objectives, principles from universal learning design and attention to diversity, and finally, the didactic transposition that develops the different phases and evaluation. Regarding context, as I have said in the first part of my presentation, my class belongs to the 5th grade of primary education that is composed by 18 students, taking into account their needs, interests, characteristics, motivations, levels. We find a student with deficit attention hyperactivity disorder, a late incorporation child from another country, and 3 learners with pendant subjects from 4th grade. So we're going to put into practice general and specific measures. Regarding general measures, we can underline the adaptation of materials and tasks, flexible groupings, differentiate instruction, inclusive assessment, or more time to complete the tasks. In relation to specific measures, the students with deficit attention hyperactivity disorder, we find a reinforcement program, the support of the therapeutic pedagogic teacher, the card box with manipulative items such as visual materials like flashcards, mini posters related to the main story of the topic, type of groupings depending on the activity, type of methodology such as teamwork, cooperative learning, gamification, and of course a positive reinforcement that is essential for him. Regarding the students with pendant subjects and the late incorporation child, we can underline simple contents or activities adapted to their level. Moreover, we have to talk about universal learning design. Do you remember the way of teaching and learning that gives all of the students equal opportunities to succeed, and it integrates several important principles: representation, providing information by using different types of formats like visual aids, oral aids, action and expression, giving kids more than one way to interact with materials and show what they have learned, and finally engagement, multiple ways to encourage and motivate the students to learn. So, the way we're going to carry out the different lesson plans is through a communicative and task-based approach. That means that each learning situation includes a final task, a final product, in which learners are going to put into practice all of the contents they have learned, the areas that this didactic unit is related to, interdisciplinarity, are art, the creation and design of a poster related to the final task, mathematics, jobs, timetables, and science, ancient jobs and their story. Regarding teaching coordination, we will be in contact with the different specialist teachers throughout periodical meetings. Materials and resources. The use of Chromebooks, the reading corner, visual materials, posters, friezes, flashcards, paintable materials. Now we're going to pay attention to the curricular elements. So we start with pedagogical principles. As we know, the Decree 101/2023 May 9 defines and establishes pedagogical principles, so I'm going to underline some examples related to this didactic unit, like the reading plan, the integration of ICT, or sustainable development and environmental education. Regarding stage objectives, the the order of May 30th, 2023 establishes general or stage objectives, giving of course special attention to the objective F related to the English area to increase and acquire communicative competence in English. However, there are other general objectives that are also related to this lesson plan, like A, B, D, E, as you can check on chart from my didactic unit. Taking into account the Sustainable Development Goals from the 20 and 30 Agenda, we focus on Sustainable Development Goal 4, quality education that gives all of the students equal opportunities to succeed, and the Sustainable Development Goal 10, reduced inequalities. So I want my students to achieve the following learning objectives. For example, to talk about future expectations or to learn vocabulary about jobs and professions. In order to encourage and motivate the students as much as possible, the center of interest of this didactic unit is professions. We will also pay attention to the specific competencies. One, two, and three that are related to a specific basic knowledge. Evaluation criteria. Exit profile. And key competencies. Such as linguistic communication competence, multilingual competence, or digital competence, among others. So, the relationship among the different curricular elements can be checked on chart from my didactic unit, as you can see. We cannot forget to talk about values education. In this case, responsibility and punctuality, the reading plan, through the book Matilda by Dahl, groupings, of course, depending on the activity, we can use log step, whole class, per work equal peer tutoring, group work, timing. As we know, the Order of May 30th, 2023 establishes a minimum of hours for the foreign language area, 2.5 hours, that can be extended if it's necessary because it's an instrumental area. So that's the reason why this didactic unit involves 8 sessions, as I have said before. Well, regarding evaluation, the evaluation of this process will not only consider the development of the specific competencies throughout evaluation criteria by students, it will be also considered the teacher's performance and the lesson plan development. For that reason, we're going to follow the evaluation criteria introduced by the Order of May 30th, 2023 throughout different techniques and instruments like direct observation, self-assessment or self-reflection for both students and teachers through a rubric, and a final rubric integrated in each didactic unit, as you can check, related to the evaluation criteria of the lesson plan. Now it's time to pay attention to one of the most important elements integrated in this didactic unit. So we are talking about activities. Well, it's important to highlight that not all of the activities are going to be evaluated, are going to be assessed. They are structured in 6 phases according to COV cycle, and these phases are motivation, activation, exploration, structuring, application, and conclusion. In addition, each phase includes routines during 5 minutes in which we are going to check the date, the weather, vocabulary words or grammatical structures learned in the different lessons. So as I have said before, this didactic unit includes 8 sessions. So we start with motivation phase, 1 session. We start with routines during 5 minutes, the date, the weather. Later, a brainstorming through the poster of the topic. The teacher on the smartboard will show a poster with a big title and different pictures and photographs related to the main topic. It's a way to break the ice with the students and to check their previous knowledge in order to start the new teaching learning process. Sorry, then we're going to play a game. Find someone who. As teachers, we know that gamification is a very motivating methodology for the students because they don't realize they are learning as they are having fun. That's the reason why I decided to introduce this type of activities in my didactic unit. So learners on the smartboard in whole class have to find someone who can be a lawyer, a teacher, a nurse, whatever. So it's a good way to learn the new vocabulary words related to this didactic unit. And finally, they are going to watch a video called Trend Jobs Nowadays. The video is about the most fashionable jobs we can find nowadays, like influencers, computer programmers, YouTubers, and they are also going to get information about the advantages and disadvantages of those jobs. Well, we continue with the activation phase, one session. Routines during 5 minutes, the date, the weather, new vocabulary words. Then text comprehension questions about jobs schedules. Firstly, in this activity, learners are going to develop their written skills, reading and writing, that are very difficult for them. So it's important to choose motivating text in order to encourage them to read and write. That sometimes is very complex. Later, they're going to do a debate about the advantages and disadvantages of fashionable jobs. This activity is related to the video that learners have seen in the previous phase. In addition, they're going to develop the oral skills, listening and speaking, socialization, and face-to-face interaction. However, the environment can be very noisy sometimes, so it's very important that at the very beginning of the activity, the teacher establishes several rules to be respected in order to create a good environment. We go on with the exploration phase, one session. Routines during 5 minutes, the date, the weather, vocabulary words. Later, they are going to read the poem Andalusias of Jaén by Federico García Lorca, as we know. Say true or false and answer question. This activity is going to strengthen their written skills as well, reading and writing. And in addition, they are going to read a poem related to one of the most important Andalusian writers here in Andalusia. So it's also related to Andalusia's legacy. Later, they're going to choose 2 questions to ask a partner using new vocabulary words and 1 to structure. Firstly, the teacher is going to give an example. For instance, what do you want to be when you get older? And the student can answer, I want to be a football player, or I want to be a lawyer. So it's a good way to develop socialization, face-to-face interaction, of course the oral skills, and new vocabulary words and grammatical structures. The next phase is a structuring phase, one session, sorry. routines during 5 minutes, the day, the weather, vocabulary words. Listen and say the number. Which jobs are not profitable? Well, learners are going to develop the listening comprehension. They are going to listen to an audio, and later they have to say in whole class the correct number related to each picture. Later they have to write about future expectations. They are going to develop their written skills, and they are going to put into practice the new grammatical structures and vocabulary words, because later they have to share the answers with a partner, as I have said before. Face-to-face interaction and socialization that are essential to learn a new language. The next phase is application phase, 2 sessions. Well, in the first session of application phase, we find routines during 5 minutes, and later they are going to investigate in cooperative groups about ancient jobs. They are going to use Chromebooks, new technology. That's, as we know, as teachers, new technology is essential at the school nowadays, so it's very important to teach students how to use it in a suitable way. So they are going to investigate about ancient jobs in cooperative groups. All of the students with specific educational needs will be integrated in the different teams. Later, they have to take notes about investigation. Well, this activity involves summarizing technique that is also very difficult for learners. For them, it's quite complex to identify the most important ideas about a text or about a video or listening. So throughout this activity, they are going to practice it, and in addition, it's very useful for other types of subjects. In the second session of application phase, learners are going to do the final task. Do you remember? In ancient job story. Well, they're going to do this activity in cooperative groups, sharing active roles, not passive ones, like the writer, the speaker, the investigator, the drawer. And they have 2 options to do the final task: through a genuine presentation using new technology, or in a cardboard with a big title with summarized information and different pictures, drawings or photographs. Well, the last phase is conclusion phase. Conclusion phase also includes 2 sessions. So in the first one, learners are going to present the project, the final product, in cooperative groups, as I have said before. While the different groups are presenting the final task, the rest of the classmates and teachers will complete a rubric underlining the positive things about the project and the things they need to improve for the following ones, always using a positive reinforcement. After the presentation, even the classmates or the teacher can ask to the different groups some questions about the presentation. Throughout this rubric, or thanks to this rubric, the teacher is going to do a self-reflection and self-assessment in order to improve for the following ones. Well, and in the last session of conclusion phase, learners are going to do a specific test about the unit, developing the full linguistic skills, and some activities related, of course, to vocabulary words and grammatical structures. That's the last element of my didactic unit. I would like to make a little conclusion about my presentation. Finally, to sum up, this didactic unit raises awareness about Andalusian legacy, and in this case, jobs and professions, developing the full linguistic skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, throughout different activities, tasks, projects, and keeping in mind, of course, the new curricular elements introduced by LOMLOE. I have considered methods such as gamification, cooperative learning, or task-based approach. In my opinion, I believe that English is crucial in today's world. It offers a lot of professional and academic opportunities for learners and helps them connect with other cultures. And the last element of my presentation is references. If you go to the page 50, you will see the different authors and laws I have considered in the elaboration of my didactic unit. So I'm going to mention some examples, such as Vygotsky, Chomsky, Harmer, Gardner with the theory of multiple intelligences, or other important laws, for example, LOMLOE, the Royal Decree 157/2022, or the Order of May 30th, 2023. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question about my presentation, you can ask me whatever you want.